You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Some big news happened at the end of the week last week. Yeah. And so we're technically recording this on Friday, but sharing this on Monday. So more things may transpire over the weekend, but really looking forward to just discussing this very important event that happened on Friday with our friend Deaconess Tiffany Manor in just a moment. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Joining us today, Deaconess Tiffany Manor, Director of LCMS Life Ministry. Thanks so much for joining us today, Tiffany.
Hey, Andy, it's so good to join and talk about this. I mean, we're just a few hours out from a really big piece of news in life ministry.
Yeah, this is really big news. Now, we are, in full disclosure, this is Friday afternoon that we're recording when some significant news happened today. And this is regarding the case of Dobbs, State Health Officer of the Mississippi Department of Health, et al. V. Jackson Women's Health Organization et al. This was a Supreme Court case argued in December 2021. So what then is the decision that was shared today? Well, Friday. What is this? Friday, June 24th.
Yeah, this morning, just a little after 10 a.m. Eastern time, the Supreme Court issued the majority decision and another opinion and the dissent. But the majority opinion was decided for the state of Mississippi, the abortion restrictions are illegal, and that the opinion also overruled Roe v. Wade, which has been the decision in effect for almost 50 years, allowing abortion to be legal in the entire United States.
Do you have details of the case, what the case was actually about that they were arguing?
Yeah, so Dobbs v. Jackson has been an awareness of general public for almost 10 months now here. It's something that started a while ago. So this case resulted from a challenge to a 2018 Mississippi law that bans virtually all abortions after the 15th week of pregnancy. The law in Mississippi has exceptions for medical emergencies and cases that involve a severe fetal abnormality. But it never went into effect because the lower courts, including the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, all blocked the state from enforcing the law. So it eventually advances all the way up to the Supreme Court and decided early in the fall of 2021 to hear the case. And then it was argued on the first Wednesday of Advent, actually, as we mark it in the church. So very early in December of 2021. And so we've been waiting for a number of months to hear what the decision would be. And a lot of people are aware that there was a leak of a draft opinion that came out in May. So there was a lot of conjecture over about 7 weeks or so about what the actual opinion would be and if the draft was going to maintain a lot of those concepts expressed in it, or if there would have been significant changes along the way. So the official holding was that the United States Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. So Roe v. Wade and also Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania versus Casey are both Supreme Court previous cases that are overruled. And now the authority to regulate abortion is returned to the people and their elected representatives.
So let's talk more about what this actually does mean. What does it mean that this decision has overruled Roe v. Wade?
Yeah, well, Justice Alito wrote the majority opinion, and he said it was quite interesting at some of the phrasing that he used. And I should express that I'm a deaconess, right? I may have a doctorate in theology, but I'm not an attorney. So please know that this is so new and so fresh that it's really going to be good for people to the opinions and the dissent for themselves. So provide some excerpts of some language that was used, but there's really more to this than sound bites that I'm going to share with you. But Justice Alito said at the start that abortion presents a profound moral issue on which Americans hold sharply conflicting views. I think we've all seen that, and probably some of us even lived that out. He went on to describe how the Constitution does not refer to abortion at all, and that nothing in the Constitution protects a right to an abortion. So Roe v. Wade declared a constitutional right to privacy between a woman and her doctor back in 1973. and interpreted that as a right to abortion. And then the case I referenced, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, which was in 1992, that reaffirmed that right. And so in Casey, the court ruled that states might not ban abortions before the point of viability, which is typically around 22, sometimes nowadays maybe 21 weeks of pregnancy, all the way up to like 24 weeks. And after that, viability is with medical interventions is much more common. So these two cases established this abortion without limit. So no gestational, no limits, like in a lot of other countries. A lot of people in the US don't realize that there were absolutely no limits all the way through the full 40 weeks of pregnancy. So in Dobbs v. Jackson, the majority opinion made it very clear that they want no more court cases about abortion. But the majority decision said the court will no longer decide how to evaluate the interests of the pregnant woman and the interests in protecting fetal life throughout pregnancy. Instead, those difficult moral and policy questions will be decided, as the Constitution dictates, by the people and their elected representatives through the constitutional processes of democratic self-government. Then there was an interesting comment made by the Mississippi Attorney General on this, and she said that this restores constitutional principle and returns the issue to the American people, which means the legality of abortion and any questions about restrictions to abortion is up to the legislative process in each state. So that's kind of an overview of what it means.
And I'm sure some states, I know Missouri has already taken action on that. I'm sure other states may be following suit as well. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about what this does mean. What does the overturning of Roe v. Wade not mean?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of misinformation out there right now, and probably will be more coming out. But yes, don't believe everything you read on social media. Right, Sarah? Is that a good rule? Do you think that's a good rule?
Yes, that is a very good rule.
Yeah, I know. It'd be interesting for the three of us to compare notes to what we see. But in regards to this case, it does not mean that abortion is illegal everywhere. It doesn't mean abortion is legal everywhere. It doesn't mean that women are going to be arrested or charged with the crime of it doesn't mean that contraception is going to be illegal. I don't know. What else are the two of you seeing that is sentiments not expressed with the Supreme Court ruling?
I mean, those are the big ones. Also, just the impact that this might have on other decisions that the Supreme Court has made. And I know the decision very specifically says that abortion is not the same thing as these other decisions that they've made, because abortion is dependent on, or talking about the value of human life and when life begins. And that is a different concept than other decisions that the court has made recently.
I remember reading just a little while ago phrases that really stood out for me. Like, I mean, we've been hearing this phrase for a long time now, is reproductive rights. Also the phrase, let's see, I think this was from, I don't remember who the quote was from, but the phrase comprehensive healthcare. They were referring to abortion as healthcare. Those were terms that and they've stood out for me all along on this issue, but referring to abortion as healthcare, I think is just troubling. And so when we change the lexicon and the terms that we use and what they mean, that then when we're reading these things on social media, it changes what's true and what's not true. It gets very confusing when we start changing the lexicon.
Yeah, that's a really important point that you bring up, Andy. It's the language around Roe v. Wade was, abortion is just going to be safe, legal, and rare. So that was the original language. And over the years, it's changed. And it's been, in some ways, some really intentional changes. And some of the more recent ones that we've seen briefings for, so that the progressive organizations in the abortion movement saying, we actually want you to refer to now like the refusal to provide an abortion as a refusal of care. So these reproductive health, that reproductive rights, and they're all hiding behind this language, the death of a very innocent human child. So I think we can expect that there may be more, the lexicon may be updated going forward, that this idea of not having abortion legalized could be a refusal of care for women, which is not true. Women are being cared for. There's always care available to women who are pregnant.
We have more to discuss regarding the Supreme Court's overturn of Roe v. Wade in just a moment with Deaconess Tiffany Manor, Director of LCMS Life Ministry, right here on the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
At Concordia University, Wisconsin, we believe you were created for a reason: to use your God-given gifts to help others, to live a life of self-sacrifice in a me-first world, to live a life that's uncommon. Whether you're taking one of 50-plus online programs or learning with us in person on the shores of Lake Michigan, you'll be equipped to make an uncommon impact. Learn more at cuw.edu. Concordia University, Wisconsin. Live uncommon.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Today we're discussing the recent Supreme Court overturning of Roe v. Wade with Deaconess Tiffany Manor, director of LCMS Life Ministry. We talked a little bit about what this decision means, what it doesn't mean, and the importance of going back and reading the published opinion from the Supreme Court for yourself, so you can read the opinion and the dissent as well. And we'll talk about the dissent in a little bit as well. But what does this mean for, or how will this then impact state laws regarding abortion?
Well, there are states that have kept laws on the books. They're oftentimes referred to as trigger laws. They go immediately into effect. These are laws that make abortion illegal or restrict abortions. There's a variety of laws in states. And there's, as I said, 13 states. If you're interested, if your state is one of them, I'll read them off. They're Arkansas, Idaho, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming. Those states have laws that either restrict or make abortion illegal. And it's expected that more state legislatures will take action in their upcoming terms. The estimates are about probably 26 states will likely have some laws within a year, maybe 2 years, that would again make abortion illegal in their states. So these are laws that some of them preceded 1973 and Roe v. Wade. Others were laws that were put into effect in anticipation of Roe v. Wade being overturned, and even some passed this last term, most of which ended in the spring, that were hopeful that Dobbs v. Jackson would be decided for the state of Mississippi.
I know I've seen just in the short amount of time since this decision came down, I've seen a lot of people lamenting this decision and talking about how scary it can be for women who may have been relying on access to abortion or thinking that was their only choice. How do we respond to that? When I'm sure most of us probably know people who may have these opinions that this is a sad day, that this is something to be angry about. How do we respond to them with the hope and the resources, frankly, that we know we have as Christians and specifically as Lutherans?
Yeah, emotions are running pretty high right now. And a lot of people are sad. Some people are afraid. Other people are celebrating. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Sarah, because it's really important to be attentive to what people are feeling. The language used in the dissent, I think, is probably amplifying some of the fear too. They talk about autonomy, the opportunity to decide, for a woman to decide for herself. As Christians, we don't understand autonomy the same way. We, in the Christian life, we have a mutual dependence on one another. And so this is a time where we can support people in our lives, people we know well who are experiencing some of these reactions and emotions. It's God who binds us together. He's the author of life. He creates life. He creates our bodies. He gives us to one another in relationship. And so we can be listening well to people and respond with the truth and share with them really what life is and point to Christ, who is the one who gives us all eternal life through his death and resurrection, and really wants that to be shared so that all could come to know Jesus and join in that eternal life by receiving his forgiveness and love. So it is important to share the truth and help people understand that some of what they're hearing may not be the full truth about this case, but then also find out what's really behind that fear, or what are you reacting to? Is it someone around us who may have had an abortion in their past? Is that why they're feeling such strong emotions? Is it they were maybe complicit or took part in an abortion decision and they're experiencing emotions because of that? Could they be concerned that they're pregnant themselves in an unexpected pregnancy for a woman, or a woman that they know and they love and they need to be cared for? So to be prepared, to listen well, to help people understand the truth of what this means and where they can access care and help for what they're what they might be concerned about or fearful of or sad about.
Tell us about the dissent in the document from the Supreme Court, because there were, 3 justices, I think, that were included with or included their dissent in the statement.
Yeah, so technically the judgment reversed and remanded the decision, the 6-3. So 6 of the justices, that means held that the case should be decided for Mississippi, and then 3 disagreed or had a dissent. So 5 of that 6 all felt like Roe v. Wade needed to be overturned. So they overturned it. 1 who agreed that Mississippi should, the decision should be decided for Mississippi was the Chief Justice, Roberts. He didn't join the majority, but he agreed on the case. And then there's other 3 were the dissenting justices. So and I'll admit that I'm not an attorney and I haven't really had time to be fully briefed on the dissent, but the excerpts I've read, they really emphasize that for the past 50 years, there's been a right for a woman to decide for herself. It's interesting to acknowledge that length of time. So throughout all of human history, thousands of years, only in the past 50 has there been a right for a woman to decide for abortion. That's kind of an interesting concept, that this would be something relatively new and modern in the whole scope of God's creation of the world. But they use a lot of the language that have been used by abortion. I just was talking a minute ago about autonomy. That was their argument. It's a woman's right to choose. No woman's body. No one can tell her what to do. And then they even kind of conjectured about what might possibly happen with legislation that could come from the states. I think that probably it's my opinion, but I think that's some fear mongering going on, kind of amplifying some of those negative emotions that are out there in the dissent. But again, read it for yourself and see what the actual words say.
There's a lot here, and these aren't short opinions. I'm looking through the dissent right now. It's, 60 some pages, and the opinion is about 79 or 80 pages. So there's a lot of meat there. Probably not light reading, but good for us to know, as many of us have a very strong opinion about the sanctity of life and what we believe, as we've talked about on social media. Knowing what these say, knowing how this actually affects the people around us is a very wise thing, so that we can speak clearly and we can speak wisely. How does empathy play into all of this? I know it's so easy to feel these strong feelings and have these true opinions about all of this, but how do we go about this with some empathy to be able to kind of meet people where they are across the spectrum of now how this affects people?
So glad you brought that up and said the word empathy. I mean, empathy is so biblical, and for the Christian, it's 12:15. We rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. With empathy, we enter in the emotions and pain and happiness with other people. And that's something that we can all join in with people around us. So like we said a few minutes ago, there's a really broad spectrum happening right now. There are people who are congratulatory and celebrating. There are people who are weeping. And so empathy isn't just kind of patting someone on the shoulder and saying, they're there, that's too bad. I guess be like sympathy for someone else, or maybe the difference between pity for someone versus compassion. And so empathy and compassion really is with someone in the midst of whatever they're going through. So Jesus, right, had compassion on people, and he empathized. And as his people, we do the same.
What then are important next steps for us in affirming life?
Yeah, so Christians, you've got to be prepared to share the truth and to love and that love is that compassionate love of Christ, and the mercy that he's first given to us that we extend to others. So as we share truth, we want to lovingly explain. Folks are misinformed, or if they don't know the truth that is found in Christ, to lovingly help them to see that. I've spoken before, I think, with you about how I was a pro-choice Christian. I needed to be taught, and it wasn't people bashing me over the head with scripture passages and trying to convince me and kind of beat it into me, but instead it was a slow walk for me to hear the truth and to be loved on by my brothers and sisters in Christ. The most important truth that we have is that life, eternal, abundant life, is found in Jesus Christ. And there's really tangible ways that we can love people, can put our faith into action. Right now, one of the more urgent needs for love is with pregnancy centers. They're tangible expressions for women who are going through unexpected pregnancies, need resources. And abortion groups have been targeting pregnancy centers, Christian pregnancy centers, for the past, over a month, really. It's not made the news. It's not really out there in people's awareness, but there's been some significant acts of vandalism, firebombing, these clinics and pregnancy resource centers that offer support. So I encourage everyone to reach out to local pregnancy centers, help them. There could well have been damage in the time since the Supreme Court decision came out, because some of the really extreme abortion groups were saying that they were going to have these times of rage. They were using the phrase night of rage, summer of rage, where they would be damaging churches. They were really targeting Roman Catholic churches and pregnancy resource centers. So I encourage you to help. There's always, if you see something, to say something, to report something suspicious to authorities and police, but also in the aftermath to repair if something has happened to one of these facilities in your community, or in the future it does happen. But then even if there's not this target of rage in your community, to volunteer at pregnancy centers. They share the gospel with women who are pregnant, as well as material goods, and coming alongside them to help them find things like even jobs and housing, diapers, clothing, medical care. I used to work in a pregnancy resource center. It was really quite a privilege to get to do that. So there's all kinds of things that you can do, and they are always in need of volunteers, and they are always in need of support. Certainly the time in the days to come, to love abundantly and share Christ's mercy with people who are feeling pain from past abortions, or if they were involved in an abortion decision. The estimates are that really maybe half the people in church may have been closely associated with an abortion, whether it was themselves or a loved one. For men, a woman they were involved with, or maybe a family member. So we need to pour out love and be compassionate too, because we just don't even sometimes know what's in someone's past. These people around us. From the LCMS perspective, we've been preparing for a really long time to love people in this way. Our congregations have been associated with other community organizations to provide love and care. And we designed this initiative, the $1 Million Life Match. We call it the 1 John 3 initiative, focusing on Christ laying down his life for us and how we love in deed and truth. We just actually awarded 37 congregations matching funds to work that they were doing, pro-life, beginning of life work in their communities. So we've just given them matching funds to increase and expand those efforts and start new things. And then we got 2 more phases coming up. We've got phase 2. The deadline is coming up really soon. It's Friday, July 1st is the deadline to apply for phase 2, but there's still time. You can still do it. But then there's phase 3 that will be in the winter to start some new pro-life work. So I commend people to learn what other congregations have done that have been effective. We're going to be sharing all kinds of stories. You can go onto our website, lcms.org/life, or email us at lifeministry@lcms.org, and we can help you get connected with some things that can be done to help you reach out in love in Christ to people around you.
I was just going to ask for that website, but we'll repeat it again, lcms.org/life. Our guest today, Deaconess Tiffany Manor, Director of LCMS Life Ministry. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been a blessing to be with you and talk about what's really happened. And I'm so thankful that we have so many Lutherans who are engaged in life ministry and really want to care for their neighbors.
You've been listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support The Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.